All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On to another episode of Talk That Talk Official Podcast. I am your host, just aka No Ordinary Brother.
All right, what's good, everybody? I go by the name of King Exodus. We're gonna get into the live at five topics tonight before we do our main deal. Um, okay, so first live at five topic. It was a viral clip that had Clifton Powell, famous black actor, older guy, and
Mm-hmm.
pretty much it was a roundtable discussion that was centered around relationships throughout time. How the man, has a connection with his counterpart, how vulnerable it is, how open it is, and how does this push like that particular community or group forward. I would just say that I do like the fact that people are having these conversations round table style, for one, first and foremost. All of these were men talking. So Clifton Powell's pushback was, um, I didn't know any better. So a lot of men from my generation, we just went throughout time, so we couldn't fix problems that we didn't know existed when it came to relationships. A younger guy, he pressed them pretty tough. It got a little hot, but the core of it is, at what point do we stop using the excuses of not knowing things or problems past a certain point? You know what I mean? I feel like at some point, that's just like we talk about marriage and people say, look, um, I'm not really looking forward to get married until I get my bag right. But then you look towards that same demographic of people, whether it's by race or community, and then you see people in positions to where they have their bag right, but they still single or unmarried. So it's like the goalpost constantly gets moved. So it's like eventually at some point, people just have to, metacognition is the highest form of thinking. That's when you have the ability to process your thinking while thinking. So before you speak on how you feel or what you're doing, you're constantly reevaluating it with self. Why am I feeling this way? What energy is this coming from? Before you process thoughts and turn it into words and actions. That's the highest form of intelligence. And then you have different forms of intelligence where people are more so hyper vigilant to where the brain is constantly processing problems, whether it's physical altercations, a threat of danger. They're seeing these things unfold before they happen. It's not fear, it's the brain processing possibilities of what may happen. It's putting you in a position to be ready. So I would just simply say, whenever you hear older people talking about, I didn't know and I'm still getting it right, I find that a little problematic. So I'll be on the side of the younger gentleman in that conversation as to, look, younger people shouldn't be figuring out problems more than the older generations and coming up with solutions and putting things on the table. So that's it for that, for me.
Oh man, during that moment within the whole episode, that whole episode like 2 hours. I'll say it's pretty hurts my brain a little bit. But if for those who watch it, you know what I'm talking about is if you watch the whole thing. But no, I agree with the brother at the table when he made the comment about being a certain age and still figuring out that something's a problem when he also was mentioning his addictions as well. I was like, well, addictions are problems too. You know what I'm saying? That's a thing that some people will look at as something to be enjoyed and something that's bad.
Mhm.
Uh, as we move forward, one of the things that the man said, he said, took a woman for you to find out how to move better. And that was one thing I wanted to bring up too. I said,
Mhm.
for you to be this late in age and a woman has to be the reflection of you to know uh, certain things or demons or whatever you want to call them exist within you, I say that's problematic. I say you always been around the wrong people in your life. If that woman, it took you that long and that woman was the first person to hold up a mirror to you, then you need to get rid of everybody that was in your life. Or can we actually be adults and say, listen, there were people that were telling me about certain things, but I decided not to listen. Or I felt like I couldn't, I felt like, hey, listen, I wanted to do what I wanted to do. And that's one of the things that people can never seem like confess to, you know? They don't want to just admit, like, I always have this theory. Like I said, this is bias is mine. This is one of my biases. But I truly believe there's been one moment in your life where somebody has said something to you and you chose to ignore it. Now, do I also understand, depending on what region, countries, and stuff, certain things that come into play? Yeah, we'll call that exception to the rule. But a lot of things that are around us has came to us at least once before. We chose to ignore it. We might not have been ready for it. But like I said, I think that was one of the craziest things about that whole talk was the accountability that man didn't have till later on in his life after things has pretty much, I will say go up in age. That's like things are settling down now for him. So he's looking to be more monogamous, more committed. So hey, shout out to him.
Cool, cool. I just say on that note, one of the biggest things about the woman scenario is, I'll say this too, like you have counterparts in different levels, right? You have most like I'm just saying from a man's perspective, you have your close friends, people you consider bros and whatnot. But what tends to happen is like bro not there with you mostly 24/7. It's certain things that only your feminine counterpart will see about you, will see in you. Uh, and that's just flat across the board, especially if y'all living together. That's who you spend majority of your time with, whether it's on the phone, you live together in person. She's gonna have a certain type of connection with you that nobody else will. And it's what I see in that thing is if you wait till you're older to have that type of relationship, now what you're saying is applicable. But if you know what I'm saying? So I think that's how he comes up with that part of it. Because most of us wait till we like close to 50 to be like, all right, I'm gonna be in a serious relationship now. So now you're getting to the feminine counterpart that's just selling you things about yourself, but nobody else is gonna know you like your feminine counterpart. Nobody. Uh, outside of your parents and shit like that. But those are the people. That's the person that's gonna know you the most. So your friends, like I say, they're not with you 24/7. We could put up a facade around, our friends and bros and shit like that. And and let's be real, some of us don't listen to our peers because we only listen upward. So if our peers are in a higher position, then we don't listen to what they say. 9 times out of 10. So as men, yeah, your woman is gonna have that connection with you that nobody else will. So,
All right, all right. Uh, so that's a high percentage. I'm not being sarcastic. Uh, I guess for me, I'll go ahead and say like this is why I always believe in mentorship, guidance, counseling, things of that nature. If everything's always dictated between the feminine and the masculine, and you can't actually get things done according to, I can't say oneself because oneself is not going to be able to diagnose. You can't diagnose yourself real accurately unless things are coming upon you and you reflecting. And that's one thing a lot of people don't do. People don't reflect into certain things that came across within their life or path. But needless to say, I'll say this: if, like I said, your growth has to come from a relationship, that's going to say a lot. That's just me. That's going to say a lot about. I'm going to say it again: the environment, the people, situations, the people who will be around you. You can only, like you said, people front. You can only front for so long. It's that's why it's the self awareness to be able to diagnose certain things, be around certain people. We start getting to a bubble at times of how we should interact with certain people. For myself, for instance, I chopped it up with a homie not too long ago. Uh, we made sure we talked about business longer than we talked about women. One of the key things is, needless to say, the older you get, some men never grow up. They'll still talk about women more than anything else. Certain aspects that revolve around them are still higher or at the same level that was at a younger basis that travel with throughout time. This is why I always believe at the same time, like, listen, as much as we say age is wisdom, we can't always say that no more. Because at the same time, as I'm watching it, like I said, I watch that episode. You can't try to big dog somebody who's more knowledgeable than you in the area you're not even knowledgeable in, or it took you years later to become aware in. And I think that's a problematic thing that goes throughout life. You can't big dog me in the area just because you're older. You're just not coming across the information. So something I'm already came across at an earlier time, regardless of you being on Earth, that's already a problem within itself. But no, but people say it's not a problem because you never know what you get yourself involved with until it's presented.
Right. I say on that note, uh, I think that's the problem with generations, especially men. It's not about one person big dogging the other. If you're younger and you have more knowledge, which you're supposed to, that's not a, you're supposed to have more knowledge. Um, just based on the you come after everybody else. So you're able to sit back and observe and study more than that person did when they was your age. So you have like probably more knowledge in a certain area of observation, probably more time to put pieces together, facts and all this stuff. They are just supposed to mostly, and I'm not saying that they're not supposed to have more knowledge overall, but the main thing that they're supposed to give is their experience. You take your knowledge with their experience, no one big dogs nobody, and y'all come together and solve problems. That's just how it works better. So, yeah, just because you know more and you're younger, it doesn't put you above them or them beneath you. And same thing, vice versa. It's about how do we come together to solve these problems and what do we have to offer. You have some people that are the same age, but some people grew up faster, so they have more experience than people their age. And then some people feel like they trying to big dog them, but if someone has more experience, they just have more experience. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. And going back to the relationship thing, I'll say this: most men don't really know who they are until they're tested in certain situations. The biggest thing that tests you and puts you in a position to see how responsible you are in different scenarios and situations is relationships. Because technically speaking, we're not even supposed to have kids outside relationships. So parenting and everything should come from relationships. So the relationship is the test. That's going to test your patience, your tolerance, your communication, your that's the testing thing right there. So, which is why we say what? Politically speaking, we don't have bachelors running the nation. We have married men doing it. Why? Because it's a symbol of certain things. If you can run a family, you can run a district, a county, a nation, a state. This is why. So, just putting that out there. So, it's not that you need that to make you, but that's the ultimate testing ground. So, um, outside of that, you have a lot of five.
Oh man, Live at Five. A lot of We have a lot of situations going on within the Gen Z community, meaning that a lot of Gen Z are taking their parents to job interviews. I was like, wow, I didn't think people still take their parents to job interviews or even did it other than dropping them off or waiting in the car till the interview was gone. But no, they said they're actually bringing their parents into the interviews. In some interviews, they sit there, the kids answer some questions. Some parents are actually answering for the kids. And yeah, certain situation where the parent is actually taking over the interview and answering questions for them while the kid sits there. So it makes me wonder: is it the parent fail or did the kid fail at knowing when to let go? You know, there's a thing, "Let Go of My Hand" by J. Cole. Knowing when it's time to separate. So that's something I definitely want to bring onto the table. Is the millennials failing at parenting? Was this the new parenting style? What is going on in the world? Because they said it's at a 20 20 to 27% that they're seeing this, and it looked like it could increase. Because yeah, remember they're that next generation that be teaching their kids down the line. Now, I'll say this, not to cut you off. I don't know. I do understand when some people bring their parents into situations if they have certain conditions. But even out of the stats from that, it was very low. Okay, there you
Okay, cool. Couple of different things on this one. Um, little quick research. 77% would be like a number that they did from studying like how many of the Gen Zers' parents were involved in the overall process of them getting jobs. That's interviews, resumes, transportation, showing up with them. Around 40 to 44%, if I'm not mistaken, it was reported that those parents actually sat in the interviews with them, negotiating their pay and all of that shit.
go.
Um, that's a little extreme to me, the 40 percentile, but I can't lie, I'm cool with the 70%. I'm cool with that. Um, this new style of parenting has its flaws, but it also has a couple of things right. The push of, yo, you 18, hit the dough. The push of, let's just go to science. Scientifically speaking, you're not fully an adult to at least 25. That's when the brain fully develops, on average around 25. Some people it's between 24 and 27, but the average is 25. And I didn't come across any studies that said women's brain develops earlier than men. When just ladies, I'm putting it out there. But 25, scientifically speaking. Okay, let's just to buy liquor and tobacco, 21. All right, cool. Um, you could be on your parents' health insurance until you're 26. Just little things, right? So I'm like, why are these numbers so high? But what we expect from people to be adulting, right, is so low. So I don't have a problem with parents being involved. Because the oldest Gen Zer would be around like 28 or maybe close to 30, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just say 28. I don't think that's a stretch to go to the interview with them. I'm not sitting in there with you, but just to because you just scientifically became an adult at 25. So maybe this corrects a lot of parenting methods that other generations didn't have. I went to a comedy show recently. Ali Sadiq performed, and he was like, "Yo, it's about my first love." His first love was his mother. She had him at 20. So he's talking about how rough she was, abusive she was, and how she's not like that with the grandchildren. And now he's in the position to be a parent, and he got one son that's really spoiled, and he like, man, y'all not gonna believe this shit, but he telling you scenarios where he didn't do the typical black thing. He actually did some soft parenting here and there. So it's like, okay, cool. Like, is it a bad thing that these generations are getting a little bit more parental attention? I don't think it is. I'm grown, 33, and it's still kind of, I observe things. My father wasn't able to be around during my childhood 100%. So from, let's say, 19 to now, he had full access, but people observe, and I'm like, okay, well, shit, bro. Like, we could patch some time up, but most of the time I see him, he working or doing other things, but that's not, that's here nor there. But the focus is not, okay, at the end of the day, I'm still a parent. You know what I'm saying? Even though dude is grown or whatever, quote unquote, it's all about relationships and time. And if men and women, parents are always focused on everything else but their quote unquote kids or young adult children, then it just reflects in how everybody turns out, nonetheless. Um, it's not just always about success. It's not always to say, "Oh, my kid is in college, they graduated, and all that shit." It's really just on like a different type of level. I feel like you should always spend time with your kids. You should always be involved with your kids. That would raise another. I'm saying kids, but remember we're talking about young adults. So I'll just ask a simple question. It ain't got to be long drawn. Is there an age or is there a financial responsibility level at which someone has to attain before they're a full adult? That's the question.
Age should, I put it like this: age should still be a consideration to a certain extent, not necessarily financial. If you have pushed in enough, I always talk about structure. Structure makes sense. I, I don't know. Hey, listen, some people say, yeah, I grew up. All right, that's cool. Structure makes sense at the end of the day. This whole world runs off structure. You can't tell me something that doesn't run off structure. So, with an age, I won't even say proper, there has to be a connection within what you are doing. So, to me, like I said, if you go to job interviews, I literally said, hey, if you go to job interviews to drop off and they're doing their interview, I think that's healthy. You sit in the process, no, not really, because now you're delivering a message to the employer that you're not grown yet because your parents are still with you. So there's also messages that's going to be said non-verbally, body, and also verbally. Nobody's going to look at you as something responsible. They're actually going to look at your parent as a failure if they have to be present with you. So this is why I always is important, like small talks that you have with your child in the car. I always said that's always been something that's valuable. Like I always talk about times where I used to hop in the car with somebody called my mentor, my big homie at one point in time, and it was always in that car where whatever we're about to do, there's preparation for it or conversations for it. Hey, listen, baby girl, you about to go to school. What do you think about doing? Oh, I don't know yet. You ever? It's small things that you do to build somebody up for them to start thinking on their own and be able to maneuver. If you're prepping your child for the world, one thing is you have to prep them for actual things that's gonna matter. An interview matters. Knowing how to communicate. This is what I want to say. Communicate. One of the things they also talk about within Gen Z is they don't is appearance and image. They still kind of dress like whatever, even during interview processes. So if you're still parenting an adult, which we always say, parents are parenting kids even when they're grown, there's going to be a connection due to the interviewer on how they're going to look at the situation. So, like I said, do I believe age comes into a factor? Absolutely. But more than anything, how you have prepared your child, that says a lot too. So, trying to do things at the last minute or prompt them up, that's going to, I don't know, shit. To me, that's going to keep them behind. But that's just me.
Cool, cool. Um, I'll just say this from experience. Like, I have a friend I talk to a lot. He in his 40s, early 40s. We was having a conversation, and he was like, "Yeah, him and his dad, his dad was pressing him to go fishing with him, just to spend some time and bond." And in moments like that, some people would think like, "Damn, when the last time my pops?" You know what I'm saying? I said, "Look, let's just do some shit like that, spend some time together." So the moving forward, I think we have to create a world or space to where parenting in some aspects, when it comes to time, never stops. Like I know people that's, 40, 50-year olds that, in particular, look, a car breakdown, their parents got two, three extra cars. Yeah, of course they got money to go and fix the situation, buy another car in the meantime until they save up money to do X, Y, Z. But some people just parents just like, look, I got an extra car, shit, just use this one till you figure something out. Nothing wrong with that. Like this tough love push you out the door, shit and all that. Like We just got to look and see like how many times have this worked. You know what I'm saying? Mathematically, a lot of times it's just a lot of people in the world just trying to figure things out. But I would say this though, like it's qualification points. Like um, I left the house at 18. Uh, day after graduation. The longest I went back home was 2 weeks. Um, I'll probably only live with my dad somewhere between an 18 and 19-year gap, a couple of months maybe. Uh, and I could probably count on hand two financial responsibilities from 19 to 33 that I got help with from parents. Um, did it make me tougher, smarter? Sure. But was it always effective? No. Because couple of twists in the economy, couple of wrong decisions here, a couple of things you don't know, understand, credit, whatever, finances, boom, now you back behind the eight ball. We just have to create a space to where we're not putting our kids, which become young adults, behind the eight ball. Putting them in situations where they got to prove themselves. I'm cool with that. So I'd say you really don't become a full adult until 100% financially you're on your own. Some people, I ask different people that's older than me these questions with kids that's, in these 20s, young 20s. And they kind of said the same thing. If I'm still paying for a bill that's monthly and I'm taking some type of pressure off you, you're still not feeling the full effects of what it is to be a full adult. It could be a cell phone, car insurance, health insurance, things that you're not feeling the full sting of just yet. I'm saving you a blow somewhere. You're not really in a full adult position just yet. Because people that would say you still are, well, I'm like, okay, well, cool. When your parents that's saving you from something, whether it's a million things, five things, one things, two things, do you listen to them when they give you advice on your personal life and situations? If the answer is no, then you got cake and ice cream because somebody's saving you from stings in life. But on the flip side, when it comes time to listen to them, now you're an adult. You can't have it both ways. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, when your financial responsibilities on a month-to-month basis become between yourself and or your spouse, now you're a full adult. If you still, now I'm not talking about you can't go to your parents if you have an emergency. I said a month-to-month basis. You know what I'm saying? So if you need help like that, then you're not really there yet, no matter how old you are. That's just, me speaking. So um, I asked this, and we can close it off on this one. On that point. My viewpoint of children would be like, look, my deal would be you could stay at the house till you like 30. Yeah, you're gonna have to pay some stuff, but if you move out, first month's rent, furniture, all that's on me. Put you in position, no problem. If an emergency come up, cool, no problem. Reoccurring things, and you still saying you're a full adult, that's gonna be a problem. That's gonna be a problem. Uh, if you have children within that window, you gotta kind of you gotta live them young. Only because I want you to get the full experience of being a parent with that other parent. I don't want to cut you off from that. You still need help with something, and emergency, cool, but it's not gonna be a setup format. You can't come to my house with your baby and y'all live there. No, no. So that'd be kind of like my question in that scenario. Like, what would be your age gap on how long your kids could live with you, and what would be like some quick things that you'll be willing to do in events they move out or they live with you or whatever, have kids or whatever.
I said on episode before when it comes to that, I do believe in setting up your child properly whenever they move out, they'll be on their own. When I got my first spot, my uncle paid for my spot my first month. Paid for my first month when I first got my first spot. Um, from there, I had some people give me my first set of furniture, stuff like that. I ain't gonna lie, I put a lot of stuff on layaway. I was paying monthly on that, preparing myself up for the move because at the same time, you don't know what to anticipate, especially when you haven't been paying a bill. Like when you first start paying bills that's over 500, this is me, over like 500. to $600, $700, $900 for your first time, it's a little bit different. So you have to anticipate what things might happen. And what I mean by that is like some people first biggest bill was their car note. Some people first biggest bill was actually paying rent. Two different things. So like I said, I do believe in setting things up properly. Uh, whether it's son or daughter, doesn't matter. One of the main things is also understanding the rule of thumb, meaning like, listen, you still gonna apply to these same rules you had as a child being over here, regardless if you're an adult. Now, do I believe there's some leeway that you might have because you're older? Might do something small, but not necessarily. Why? Is because if the rules are the same for when you're a child, you have to then diminish yourself as a child and prove that you are an adult. I think that's a lot of things we don't talk about. Like I said, there's always graduating stages. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? One of the biggest things I always see that's a positive factor is I do meet men who still pay their daughters some type of daughter bill that they have, cell phone, something like that. But in return, how's your daughter looking at men? That's something that we don't also talk about. Some people say, listen, my dad paid for this and that. I need somebody who's gonna do the same thing. I'm like, listen, I guarantee if I call your dad, he don't talk like that. I get that what he has done is try to set you up properly for when a man does step into position what he should be what I wouldn't say what he should be able to do, but what he can do. I'm taking the load off you so you can focus on other things and aspects. But what like I said, I've said it, and I believe you said it. Once you get married, hey, listen, our responsibility is now on you and your family. So I always say, being a father and raising your daughter, and you're taking over certain financial aspects. How are you? I would say, how are you? How are they looking at men? That's the biggest thing. The fact that you take care of them responsible, are they looking at men to take care of them responsibly? Or do they understand, hey, my father is pitching in for this as an appreciation because he sees what he wants me to become or anything of that nature. I think that's sometimes a healthy thing, and also it can be a crutch at the same time. It's so like I said, I seen both sides. I seen both sides. So I seen the father pitching in and letting his daughter know, listen, I'm taking this because you need to set yourself up properly. So like when you start doing things in dating, you need to get me involved in that. You're gonna make your own decisions, but you need to get me involved in that. See, that's the rule of thumb. So, and like, hey, you don't want nobody dictating. You want to make your own decisions. You need to be 100% on your own. And some people try to say like that's financial abuse, that's financial control. Like, no, you're still a child. You're still in a certain you're still in a certain aspect as to why you're still needing, your parents' financial assistance for certain roles. So, like I said, certain things. Like one thing I will say is, if the person has proven themselves to be structured, they can actually start grasping things on a financial basis at the same time. It's just all about how do you deliver your messaging why they look at certain things. If they see how you financially are disciplined, they will pick up that same habit. If you're undisciplined, they'll pick up that same habit. So that's why it's key aspects and rules. That's why they always say like fathers will take care of their daughters for a longer period of time. But guess what happens? Just like there's son husbands, there's daughters that be wives act like wives to their own fathers. So that's the counteraction of a lot of things. We know what son husband are, but we don't talk about the women that never get in relationships, never get married, never do anything because their father has always been taking care of them. So they rather rely on the father than it is to actually build the relationship.
Yep. Facts. Going back to metacognition, even in parenting, you got to do it. You got to look at everything in the style of permutations, what works, what doesn't work, constantly do the math. There's
Mhm.
no blueprint that you keep for the whole existence of your kid, and that's what you follow. Nope. Permutations, what works, what don't work. Keep throwing shit
Mhm.
out, keep trying new shit. For a father to quote unquote financially abuse his daughter, as people say, right? On a lighter note of that, sometimes it's just a training ground for that daughter to be able to make decisions alongside a man. It's just
Mhm.
training. You know what I'm saying? So now she's used to a male's input in how to make decisions. Same thing with a dude. His relationship with his mother on how he makes decisions alongside communications with her will kind of dictate how he makes decisions in a relationship. That's why I say relationships for men and women are the ultimate testing grounds of your maturity, your communication, your effectiveness. That's the ultimate testing grounds, right? So it goes on both sides. If men don't know how to make decisions alongside women, and it doesn't happen before you get into relationships, you don't want to learn on the job. You want to have experience already. It comes from parents. And the best case is you come from a nuclear family, so you know how to make decisions with both of your parents alongside. This trains people to be husbands and wives effectively because you're making decisions outside of yourself. There's a lot of brilliant people that have experience and wisdom and knowledge, but they only know how to think for themselves and make decisions by themselves. They don't know how to do it in different type of settings. So it cripples them. You know what I'm saying? So that's one thing you can point out. And I'll say this with the whole parenting thing of young adults, full adults, it's a lot of people that have this whole push of being a mud baby, and they really didn't live like that. And people have to stand on the ground to where they're proud to say, yeah, I had parents. I had help. I didn't do everything by myself. And this is why everybody want to portray like they did it by themselves 100%. Oh, I had to go through XYZ and my parents wasn't there and I figured it out. A lot of people that push that tough love shit had help. I'm gonna just keep it G with you. They're probably the people that got the most help. They just don't want to now be the helper because that's a different kind of vibe, a different type of energy. Now you're the person that's sacrificing for somebody else, and that's not a comfortable position if you're only used to being on the other side. So keep that in mind. Like, it's nothing wrong with inheriting a house. There's nothing wrong with inheritance and yo, my parent was able to help me with this until I turned this age. Let that also be part of your story. So that teaches the next generations that, yo, this mud baby mentality is bullshit. No man is an island. No man built a successful multi-million, billion-dollar company by himself. If they did, they're a fucking lie. No one became Mr. Olympia by himself. They had to get the right trainers. They had to go to the right nutritionists. Everybody played a role. Nobody made the hit album by themselves. So I think that's a conflict right now that people go out their way to have tough love when they didn't get that kind of tough love, and people go out their way to try to be so solo, and that's we just got to dead that. So yeah, parents, love your goddamn kids. Uh, love them as long as you can, and fuck what people say about that because at the end of the day, like that's what's gonna count the most in the long run. I ain't saying cripple, but there's nothing wrong with loving people. So you got it.
Oh shit, I'm trying to adjust myself. uh, yeah, so that would be like one of the subjects I wanted to bring up was
Mm,
like seeing how different people view it at. Some people look
mm,
at the parents as failure. Some people look at it kids, kids not being able to understand what it is to be an adult. Like it's so much stuff within that subject alone. While the next generation is still having assistance from their parents, even in the smaller situations. Like I said, the job interview is one thing. Um, like I said, I'm doing more research on that, but I believe it's some bigger areas as well
mm,
outside of just the interview process. One of the things they said was the same parents that are showing up in job interview with their kids are the same parents that were doing their kids' homework. And I started laughing. I was like, I can see that. But some people might say no, it's not true. But if your hand is still involved in everything that they do and they have not learned how to see, that's the thing that I always say. Like you could teach somebody how to do something, but don't do it for them. if that had never been trained or that method has been taught to you, there's a reason why you still need somebody present with you at all times. For instance, at the job, at some of the jobs I've been at, some people will get in with you, get in the job, and some people train you, and they won't necessarily touch. They want you to reach for the objects and do what you need to do. So that's a different. That would say I would say that's somewhat hands-on training, but at the same time, it's really still you moving individually while they're telling you to do something. So I would always say if certain methods were given to you, man, that could be also a key indication as well.
Yeah, cool, cool. Yeah. Yeah. I I just go on a anecdotal limb. My age group, honestly don't know too many people that been on their own full adulting from like let's say 20 to present. I don't know that many people. I can count on one hand. And sad to say, not even sad to say, because it's not a sad to say type of thing, but I'm talking about like maybe three people I know max, and those three people are females. Like I don't know too many people that's just been on their own and figured everything out from start to finish and all of that shit. Like, so yeah, I just think that narrative is trash. Yeah. Like I say, scientifically speaking, if your brain doesn't fully develop to 25, and let's keep it real about what we do in society. Most people before the age of 25, they already got 1 to 3 kids. So scientifically, that's like children having children. And then, you know what I'm saying? So, like I say, we have to look at society outside of legality of what makes you an adult, scientifically what makes you an adult, maturity wise, financially what makes you an adult, and let those be the numbers and everything moving forward, not just 18 to 21 and all right, you know what I'm saying? Like that's just how you gotta look at it. And then this will tackle into dating, age gap dating. Like you dating somebody under than 25, scientifically, they're not an adult. Legally they are, but mentally, scientifically, they're not. So these are the kind of conversations people gotta have moving forward to see what makes sense and what don't make sense. Um, in older civilizations, when people did things way younger, you have to look at the climate. Let's just say men now. They do a lot of things. They got a lot of free time, a lot of decisions that they can make out of freedom and boredom and maturity and effectiveness and all of that. Look, at one point in time, you trained to defend your land or you was at war fighting to take over somebody else's land. That's all you did as a man, unless you was like a carpenter or a farmer or some shit like that. So even in these civilizations where people did things way earlier, look at what they had to do. You know what I'm saying? Like, so when people do try to play the numbers game, well, my grandma, but I don't even want to have that conversation about what how the ages people got married and had kids back in the days. That's a whole other conversation. But yeah, we can move forward. You got anything?
Uh, no, not necessarily right there. Over what you just spoke. No, I don't got nothing else.
All right, cool. So I think we got a little time for the main event. Cool, cool, cool. So one morning I woke up and I woke up in an intense focus, and I also woke up in rage. Not self-destructive rage, because I could channel it a little better now. But it was just like a damn. Okay, this is my day. And I notice it's different types of people that wake up in the morning. It's the person that wakes up with the experience of being the employee. It's the person that wakes up knowing that they're a boss or they're in a position to have more time allotted to themselves throughout the day. And it's the person that is the employee that's completely fine with it. Now, you do have people that, put themselves in positions to have careers to where they're high six-figure earners, right? And they live a great experience. There are plenty of people out there with that reality. But there's always people that's like, okay, cool, that's your reality, that's your income. But what's after that? What's the experience behind that? What's the investments behind that? And let's say you have children. Now, do your children have to work for somebody? Or are they put into a situation to where they can run companies, run businesses, invest, or do whatever? Those are the things that I would ask that group of people, right? So everybody wakes up on a different type of time. Like I say, me mostly, I wake up in rage. I'm probably tired because I probably got shit 4 hours of sleep on an average, maybe five. 5 hours of sleep is great for me. That's a good day, unless I'm off. So the rage will come on how. Remember when I said earlier with parenting, something simple is like parenting even takes time outside of providing and producing. There's still time. When you study the game of wealth, you always hear this reoccurring theme of you never want to trade your time for money. If you're constantly trading your time for money, then you're hustling backwards. You want to be in a position to where your time gives you money and then you use that money to work for you.
Hmm.
So if you're putting in crazy hours a day, nonstop consistently, year after year after year after year after year after year, where's the growth? You know what I'm saying? So that's the kind of things I wake up in the morning on my mind. So sometimes if I wake up early, 5 in the morning, 5:30, 6 at the latest, 6:30, kind of pushing it. It's okay. I got my positive affirmations. I got to do that. I got to work out a little bit, get a little relief off. Prep for the day. Listen to my gangster rap before I go to work. You know what I'm saying? Do these things and it put me in a space. Okay, bet. Now I can be normal. You know what I'm saying? At least for the work shift. Maybe throughout the work shift, I gotta, you know what I'm saying, keep my head in certain places. But nonetheless, I would just simply ask, who are you in the morning? What are you thinking about? How do you wake up? How do you feel? What are you doing throughout the day to keep your energy on a high level? So it's just a simple deal, your morning vibes. I'll let you do your thing.
Oh, morning, man. Good sleep. Feel energetic, ready. Listening to some music. So we gotta get ready to take a shower. Thinking about how I'm gonna process today.
Mm,
Uh, I always say, always have everything in mind that you want to do and execute. That's one of the reasons why you can go to sleep sometimes, and sometimes the reason why it keeps you up. Um, I always keep the end in mind. I always talk about I use my imagination when I be working. Always thinking about the end in mind, my next step. Once I accumulate the money. See, that's the thing. Another thing is always knowing what you would do once you have the money. I already know how your money make money for you. So at the same time, also developing the necessary skills to be able to multiply money and for you to get yourself into better opportunities and positions. Um, that's another thing that goes to my mind anytime I wake up in the morning. Get some stretches in, get a hot shower. One of the main things I start doing in the morning is making sure I do showers in the morning as well to help wake the body up. Uh, let's say if it's a bad morning, man, I'm probably dreading moving a little bit slow. But one of the things I always had is whiteboards. I think there's dry erase boards, man. Those are important. I always say like, listen, put things in the positions for you where no matter where you walk by, you have to read it. Your eyes tend to read immediately what it looks at. So it's like a reminder. I always believe in having reminders in front of you, having certain pictures in front of you, certain things that's in place. It's one of the biggest things. One thing I also don't mind at times is I think even this year I might end up changing my sleep regimen to like getting up at 4, just because I always say, listen, when the world is asleep, that's when you should be working. Nobody's gonna contact you unless you're looking for something. Um, unless you're looking for certain, these are the deepest times for you to start researching, finding out what it is that you want to become, who you want to become, creating opportunities, looking for opportunities, setting yourself up, looking at events. I'm a big event person. I tell everybody that. As a single man or in a relationship, I've always been an event person. I like events that are already planned out that you can attend. Just make yourself known, maybe have them conversations. You never know. One of the biggest things I start noticing, even Presently at the current job I'm employed at, everybody says good morning. That's a normal thing. Everybody says good morning. I really realized a lot of people don't have conversations past that. And when you start to, you understand who are the decision makers, who are people who are some shakers and all that, and who can point you in the right direction. Uh, I have a philosophy of myself. Listen, if I see you more than 3 or 5 times and we speak, eventually I just need to go ahead and make you a friend. We're already going to be in the same place. We're going to pass each other at the same time. Might as well just start making conversations. So I'm always looking at how do I become better. And that's another thing. That's how my morning routine is like, hey, making sure I do the necessary things, get the rest, shower, start prepping, um, keeping a healthy mindset as I go out throughout the day. And get out of traffic. Fuck traffic. Traffic is crazy.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Um, yeah. I would say like going back to like I wake up. Like I said, I'm different. Um, my challenge is mm, looking at where I want to be in life versus where I am, and that would be the morning rage, which is fuel to the fire. There's always work that needs to be done. There's always improvements that need to be made. Now, the other challenge behind that is if I know how to operate out of rage as fuel for fire to become better, then I have to counter that with love. I have to also find love throughout the day. And this is why I stress, especially to men who become more smart, intelligent, spiritual, whatnot, it becomes a certain point to where it's like, okay, cool. Like, where you better half at? Even if it ain't, something official, whatever. We're in a space now to where we pass marriage being a barometer of anything. It's just like, okay, cool. Where's your counterpart? You know what I'm saying? What are things you do out of the day outside of accomplishments and success? Is there anything centered around love? First, is there anything centered around what you love to do? If you working, grinding, hustling all day and you ain't did nothing that you love to do throughout that day, you hustling backwards. Um, so yeah, you want to find areas to operate out of love. Some people get it when they look at their kids, when they look at their significant other. Some people get it when they find time to sit down and play a video game that they like. Some people get it when they watch their favorite TV shows, they watch their favorite sports. If you put all of this in an experimental type of style, you can see why you go to work and you got the coworkers that all they talk about is sports because that's what they love. You know what I'm saying? That's what put makes them free. You got some people that may talk about video games. You got some people that may, what I'm saying, talk about their kids and their family because, that's where most of their love is centered from. They just like, look, the smiles on my kids' faces, the smile on my wife's face. You know what I'm saying? You have different type of conversations that's going on. Some people like, man, you seen the new episode of this? Oh man, that shit dope. Da, 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 da. And then you just got the robots that's just like, I just work. You know what I'm saying? You got those people. And then you have people that know how to incorporate work outside of work, which is like, look, I work here, but outside of this, my passion is this. I got this type of hustle going on with this that's attached to this business or brand. It's not lucrative, but I like doing it. This is what I love doing. It keep my mind going. Um, like us, we podcast. It might be like, look, I make clips. I study podcast gaming, and I give put out, what I'm saying, clips that can be a thing. You always want to have things that's attached to some type of love that you have. That's the balance. You don't necessarily get rid of rage or hyper focus. That's a part of you, but you balance it out with other areas of your life. So that separates the robotic people from actual human beings. You know what I'm saying? Feel something real every once in a while. Have real conversations with people where, you completely honest and open. You know what I'm saying? And transparent. I'm not in a script or a role and you're not either and we just talking. To some people that's a breath of fresh air. Like that's like you'll be amazed how that affects people to just have a genuine conversation with somebody. You know, I ain't trying to get nothing from you. It's no intent nowhere. It's no 48 laws of power bullshit. It's just a clean conversation, genuine. That moves people. That moves society. So, and that would only happen if you self-reflect a lot. And this is why earlier in the conversation we brought up relationships, but really a lot of people don't self-reflect down to the core. They do it on a level just to function, but it's not down to the core. You have in the spiritual world, they call it shadow work, the work that you do uh, on the ritual side, maybe the work that you do that's linked to astrology, maybe it's different types of work in the religious world. It may be people going hardcore diving into their faith. You know what I'm saying? It's things that people do outside of themselves spiritually that they call that self-reflecting. It puts them in a state. Somebody may just meditate for so many times a day, but who has time for that if all you're doing is getting money? Who has time for that if all you're doing is, you know what I'm saying? So you got to get out of the mindset of getting the bag because now you're just chasing money. You're chasing something, you never really get it. You have to know how to attract certain things. So you're not just here to be a worker and be somebody that get money. That's not why you're here. You know what I'm saying? So you have to also, in the love space, make sure your relationships are intact. It's not too, you know what I'm saying? Like some people may say it's corny, but there's always that one friend that makes sure all the friends stay in contact. Hey, what is y'all doing this weekend? What y'all doing? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm hustling, I'm grinding too, but yo, this Saturday, let's link up. There's always that one family member that keep the family together. There's always that one parent that's no matter how they kid 40 years old, but they like, look, this Sunday we having dinner or we gonna go fishing or we gonna go do something. That's why people do that. Because they trying to operate out of something that's just centered around what people tell us to live around love, not love, but ambition and goals and focus, success, yada 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 yada. So yeah, I would say, look, make sure your energies are balanced out between ambition, focus, love, all of that. That'll give you a complete experience as a human being. Self-reflect, nonetheless. That's why relationships are important. Um, yeah, the person that you consistently sleeping with, that's the person that's gonna feel shit that you're not even putting into context of who you are at that moment. That person gonna know you the best. You know what I'm saying? So keep those type of things on in the context. Know your lower energy and your higher energy, not just the toxic things about you, quote unquote, that you want to give credit to, but know the things like I said, it's different types of thinking. You have metacognition as a form of intelligence, which is processing your thoughts, but then you have a hypervigilant intelligence, which is pretty much overthinking. You're processing problems and everything before they take place. A lot of those people that I know through experience, very smart, genius level thinkers, but they self destruct because they don't know how to turn the brain off. They don't know how to relax. You could say they got ADHD maybe. If they're not reading something, studying, they working. If they're not doing that, they constantly moving. They can't sleep at night because they can't turn the brain off. So sometimes they indulge in drugs because now that's the scapegoat. The brain still runs off highs, right? Dopamines and endorphins and all these different things have to take place. Some people just eat a bunch of sugar. That's how they get it. But nonetheless, that goes back to self-reflecting. So I ain't trying to go on a rant, but this is what leads people to drugs, nonetheless, all these different types of things. The brain not being able to rest. So rest is very critical. I ain't saying